Interpretation of science about the cosmos at one time can be wrong, in the next period, following the development of the next science. Current scientific analysis theory of the formation of the moon. Édouard Roche. In this theory, he explained that the moon was created because it condensed from the matter, then rotated like a hot dust cloud that created the Earth. George Darwin. The moon is gradually moving away, where at first the Earth and the moon are one celestial body that is united. Then the Earth rotates with a rotation that is getting faster, so that a small part of the Earth separated to form the moon. Thomas Jackson C. This theory explains that Earth's gravity attracts the moon that was formed at different places in the solar system. Big collision theory. This theory was put forward in 1974, which tells that the moon is estimated to have been formed in about 4.5 billion years. The moon was formed from the debris that was released after a celestial body the size of Mars collided with Earth. The flake is called the INDONESIARYÄ. The collision between the two occurs large enough that there is a shard of the Earth and the INDONESIARYÄ. The fraction is in the form of matter around the Earth. The material is then bound by gravity to form the moon. Even this theory is not valid yet. If this theory is correct, of course the INDONESIARYÄ is considered a fragment of the Earth must be a structure. The material is the same as the Earth. Considered a celestial body the size of Mars collides with the Earth. Where is that big thing right now? So what planet it is? Science doesn't provide an explanation. If it is true that the fraction of the collision of the Earth and Theia formed the moon, why only one of them became the moon? Didn't millions of pieces occur during the impact? Until now, science has not been able to confirm the formation of the moon. We look at this interpretation of science of the cosmos at one time, it could be wrong at the next. Follow the development of science. Further knowledge. So what is wrong is the interpretation about the ancient civilizations of the archipelago. This prosperous country has made progress, which was very high in the past. Progress exceeded today's science. The advanced civilization of the archipelago left mega sites on the face of the Earth, as well as the philosophy of its teachings that spread almost 3/4 of the world. Coloring Arab land recorded in Jewish culture, characterized by similarities to the Parmalim culture. It thrives on Indian soil into two major teachings. In the 5th century BC, and then a new religion was born in the 9th century AD. In fact, the teachings originated from this land of the archipelago. Currently the teachings are being claimed to Borobudur, where the origin of the teachings came from. I say now, even though it will prove to be true, that archipelago's previous civilizations that have built and take care of the moon, built, is different from create. Our logical reasoning has not been able to reveal it, because of reason. Logic and logic is even true or not. The decision is based on the input that enters our brain. While the understanding of science is currently in a deadlock. During research and only considered science if it is only material, and material, it is limited to the senses only by the 5 senses. While the input of science is at the sensory boundaries. Plus it is flooded with millions of inputs which must be uniform. And must be correct, even with the basis and reason, he said. How about the interpretation of the scriptures about the moon? Kitabsuchi. It must be true. It remains only interpretation and knowledge that must prove this. There is no evolution, no ancient man, there are no aliens, and the earliest and advanced civilizations on Earth are in this land. Archipelago of Indonesia formerly. And what is more important is to discard the dogma about this nation, which is not primitive, not animism dynamism. Not a nation that imports other cultures. We are not from India to Arabia, but both from here. How was the form of swastika, the symbol of the ancestral archipelago, found on the moon? When did Hitler go to the moon? Pay attention to this. Hermeneutics is one type of philosophy that studies the interpretation of meaning. The name hermeneutics, taken from the verb in Greek hermeneuin, which means interpret, give understanding, or translate. If traced further, the verb is taken from the name Hermes, the god of knowledge in Greek mythology, who served as a giver of understanding to humans regarding the messages conveyed by the gods in Olympus. The function of Hermes is important because if there is a misunderstanding of the message of the gods, the consequences will be fatal to all of humanity. Hermes must be able to interpret or adapt a message into the language used by the listener. Since then, Hermes has become a symbol of an ambassador who is burdened with a certain mission. The success of the mission depends entirely on the means, how the message was conveyed. Therefore, hermeneutics was ultimately defined as the process of changing something or a situation of ignorance into understanding. As a scientific term, hermeneutics was introduced the first time since the emergence of books on the fundamentals of logic. Theory Hermenias by Aristotle. Since then also the concept of logic and the use of rationality introduced as the basis for hermeneutical action. This concept was carried over to the traditions of several religions when entering the medieval age. Hermeneutics is defined as the act of understanding God's message in His holy book. Rational. In the Christian tradition, since the 3rd century AD, the Church, which is thick with the peripatetic tradition, uses this concept of Aristotle's offer to interpret the Bible. Whereas in the Islamic philosophy tradition, the Kalam ulama use the term takwil instead of hermeneutics to explain verses. Mutasiabahat. So God's message must be conveyed correctly to rational understanding the message conveyed by God in His holy book rational and objectively. Hopefully the current scientists who are rational science and the people religion reveals God's message below. Sad. 35. He said, "O my Lord, please forgive me and give me a kingdom that no one after me has had. Verily you are the giver." Sad. 37. And we also subject him to him, all devils are all builders and good at diving. Question. What buildings are built on land, also under the sea? Which was built by a genie who is good at diving? Is the building on land that is Borobudur? And the one under the sea is Jayapura wall? How? The science of hermeneutics as well as religion answers or interprets God's intention on that word. Another point that the Muslim scholars needs to examine is revealing the word that has always been close to moon, namely Jala. What does the word mean? Is it the same as the word create and built? How was the form of Su Astika, Lelahar Nusantara found? Is on the moon, which by the West interpreted the act of Hitler. Our ancient ancestors who transcended limitations. Matter crosses the universe through time and space. Previously advanced Nusantara civilization has done travel across galaxy planets, even across space dimensions and time. On Earth, the area is 3/4 of the Earth. How the man made the cross trip. Dimensions, space and time. Let's take a look. The previous Nusantara civilization was very advanced, the comparison of its current progress is 1 in 10 ever, and was traveling across the galaxy doing teleportation and live on other planets, also build the moon. All of that was recorded on the reliefs of the world's Qibla monument at that time, named Buana Saka Fala, Borobudur. Here we will try to read Science Level 10 with a very limited Level 1 science reference lens. We look at it. This is according to current science. We start from matter and antimatter. Antimatter is matter consisting of antiparticle of the particles that make up ordinary matter. When a particle and its antiparticle touch each other, they mutually destroy or cancel each other out. The meaning. Both are converted into other particles with the same energy according to Einstein's equations. E = mc squared. Law of conservation of energy states that the amount of energy of a closed system, it does not change, it will remain same. This energy can neither be created nor destroyed by humans, but it can change from one form energy to another form of energy. Then what's left is energy. In another language as will. This is the correlation of his discussion, Mukso. Material and antimatter, if they meet naturally, will mutually nullify. A little about human. Humans can run, function, it requires energy. And that energy is what? Called the will. We start first by proving the physical remains of artifacts from the archipelago's predecessors, namely the monument that our predecessor left behind, namely, Buana Shaka Fala. Now published, named Borobudur. The monument displays the history of its progress. On the relief of the wall, the three realms of existence are reflected in the three stages of Bhawana. 1. Bhawana lasts. 2. Bhawana Drio. 3. Bhawana Triya. The naming above is based in the original teachings of the archipelago, not comma. Likeness. Arupa Dhatu, Indian version. At the top, it is visualized in a sculpture form. Three-dimensional position of a human sitting cross-legged, this is a procession. Spiritual contemplation of the archipelago's former ancestors, topo. Not a statue of the noble figure of the noble Siddhartha Gautama, but he followed this contemplation technique, and developed it in India. This is a procession of human spiritual contemplation for the operation of the physical body, matter and anti, to cancel each other's, mukso. Nahyang. Sirna. Mortal. Disappears. In Islamic Sufism it is called, fana. The Sufi term is said to be mortal, from all the worlds, including himself. This procession is to reach the highest level of human ability. In other terms it is called, mukso. Himself and this universe of course still exist, but it is mortal, disappear from the Sufi consciousness, there is only the awareness of the existence of God. Manangaling Kawulo Gusti. United. Will, perfect to be, his representative, on earth. Not the union of Zat. Mukso. Or fana is not dead. This is the human state. Perfectionist. Move dimensions and can travel across space and time, complete body and spirit. This is the teachings of the archipelago that underlie the teachings that grew up in land of India, became a religion in the 9th century which was later in claim on the original teachings of the archipelago in the before New Order, conservation of energy, and antimatter, which negates matter to exist in other material forms according to the will. Humans have traveled across dimensions, space and time to prove our former ancestors were humans who advanced civilized beyond the present progress, traveling across time and space. Try to remember the real facts about humans who have done this and made an uproar in the Karay tribe in Arab land in the 5th century AD. Space travel across planets and even galaxies has been done with the greatest of Nusantara. Tuesday, May 1, 2011, a cross-planet plane dropped its plane in Jogya leaving a crop circle. Check out this. According to Hawking, in virtual time conditions, God's time, by going through wormhole, we can go to any time in the history of the Earth, can go to the past and to future. Einstein and I. Rosen concluded that the existence of wormhole was closely related to black hole, the object of the universe, which is known to have wormholes very strong gravity, which is related to the relationship in space-time, known as Lorentzian wormhole. There are two types. 1. Inter-universe wormholes, wormholes that connect our universe with other universes, this is the presumption of parallel universes. 2. Intra-universe wormholes, connecting wormholes, two regions in the same universe. There is also another wormhole known as Euclidean wormholes. This wormhole is in a very process, micro, and is a major concern of quantum field theorists. Several Muslim scholars identified the existence of wormhole Ma'ari, that is, the place where the angels rise from Allah, who has a place to go up, ascend, angels and spirits to him in one day as the size is 50,000 years, QS 3 to 4. This Ma'ari wormhole is more of a special path Allah created for the servants that he wills. Some believe stories in the Al-Quran, such as Al-Kahf youth and the Isra incident, related to this wormhole Ma'ari phenomenon. Wormhole Ma'ari is also believed all human beings are animate, that is, when death comes, one door of wormhole Ma'ari opens to us. This hyperspace will be connected to the Barzakh realm, where the angel of death will accompany us on this bridge, which one day is comparable to 50,000 years on Earth. The connection with the previous advanced civilization Nusantara. Mukso. The attainment position form display is displayed in stupa with the form of a person in a sila sitting position, samadhi, yoga, contemplation, laku at the Wana Saka Pala monument located in Jogyamagaling. Mukso is an advanced contemplative way of crossing space and time without using other supporting tools. This technique is depicted on the reliefs and stupas of the site. This site is a track record of the progress of Indonesia's previous civilization. Not built in the 8th century AD and cared for by the successor of the previous, Surya, dynasty, Wangsa Syailendra. Mukso. This is the peak of the spiritual contemplation of Nusantara's ancestors, not from outside, but the original Nusantara teachings that flourished outside the underlying teachings. Please note that the word, mukso, or moksa, which means the release of the soul. In the word, Javanese, tradition, mukso, can also be interpreted as search, liberation, or also the transfer of oneself from one place to other place. What is meant by displacement here is displacement in its time and space dimensions. If previously someone was and lived in the real dimension on Earth, this, mukso, means he has moved to another dimension. This happens not only soul, spirit, but his body followed. That is, people who are mukso are those who have changed their place of residence, both body and spirit, from the real world to another world. But here they cannot be equated with dying, synonymous with hibernation, to facilitate understanding. Conclusion. Space travel across planets and even galaxies has been done in a noble way. Archipelago. Indonesia developed earlier. By Santo Saba.